China puts Evergrande's billionaire founder under police control, and open house seized Hong Kong mansion listed for 112 million traces fall of Evergrande tycoon. And hi friends, welcome back to the channel. This is your daily news fix. We're going to be talking about what's going on with China, Evergrande, and the real estate developers. We'll also be talking about the possible USA government shutdown and what's going on with the meme stocks and crypto. So let's just jump right in. This first one's really interesting because I mentioned this several times. There are multiple people involved with the China real estate developer thing. So this particular person, so this is the billionaire founder, as you can see here. They're using the phraseology under police control, which is a bit odd because you could say detained, you could say arrest, right? Depends how you want to word it. And it's interesting as well as they actually have photos here of the kind of houses that these people live in. And then again, they're trying to sell this thing for 112 million. This is a close-up of the type of place, so it's obviously very nice. And the reason why I mentioned the detained is it depends how you want to say it. So I'll read a little bit of details here with you guys. So this is here, his name is Hui Kai-yang, so billionaire chairman, talking about Evergrande. And Hui was taken away by Chinese police earlier this month. So this is a little bit late story, but we're just kind of getting leaked of it now. It is being monitored at a designated location. So who knows where he is? People said, asking not to be identified because the matter is private. So again, this is a leak and we just don't know who it's coming from. So it could all be BS, but I'm just going over it with you because I do think there's going to be people who are named publicly of like who lost your money. It's not clear why Hui is under so-called, quote, residential surveillance, a type of police action that falls short of formal detention or arrest and doesn't mean Hui will be charged with a crime. Still, the measure means he is unable to leave the location, meet or communicate with others without approval based on China's law. And also, too, passports and ID cards must be handed to the police, but the process shouldn't exceed 6 months. I guess, again, according to law, but who knows what their law is. I'm bringing this stuff up because I think you're going to keep hearing these kind of stories of someone's get arrested, stuff like that, because this is real. If you're just regular Chinese person, you're like, hey, where's my money? Who stole my money? Why don't I have, my house completed? This kind of stuff. And the government, has to quell anger. Otherwise, people just go out and riot in the streets. And I'm being honest about this because imagine, you take out a loan, to buy an apartment or, house, this kind of thing. And, you think it's going to be finished and suddenly they just stop building it and you're still having to make payments on your thing. And like, you got nowhere to live because you had to make arrangements for that. So, and you're talking about people's homes. So, obviously I'm showing you the expensive homes, but this are obviously people who are benefiting from the system when the money was flowing. But essentially what we're talking about, as we talk about, many times in this channel, the money has stopped flowing. And, this is very, very real. You can see this. It's funny what people say in public and what they say in private. Here's an example of that. This is a survey that CNBC did. They asked, different chief investment officers and fund managers, these kind of people, and like, hey, where do you think the market is going? This is more private, right? Because they don't have to give their name. They just say, hey, just answer the survey. 61% say this is a bear market rally. 39% went into a new bull market, okay? So it's a little bit split, but tends to be more bearish. This part's an interesting one. They say, okay, what about recession? What do you think about that? So mid-2024, 41% say that's when the recession is going to hit. So mid next year. Later than 12 months from now, 23% think that. Q4 2023 or Q1 2024, 80% say that. So that one's kind of, that's more like the near-term future, right? And then there won't be a recession. Only 14% are saying that, and then we're in one now, 4%. So I would say people tend to be bearish. I think what really changed the mood was, and it's kind of odd because the Fed's been saying the same thing all year, but this time maybe people are taking it a little bit more seriously, or they're saying it more seriously in public. The thing is, though, the numbers don't lie. So that's a survey. So this is just, great, take that with a grain of salt, but that's something that where I say numbers don't lie. Look at this one. China property stocks slide to lowest since 2011 as rout extends, right? So if you had your money in the Chinese real estate, market, the peak was right around here, 2017. So this has actually been in decline for quite some time, right? You're looking at a 6-year decline. You can see it right there. This is the China's developer stocks, right? And when you're talking about detaining, arresting, house arrest, whatever you want to call these kind of things, one of the richest people in China, essentially, it would be like, what if the government is like, hey, Warren Buffett, you lost everyone all their money. just stay in your house, don't go anywhere, give me your passport. It is a big deal. And you can see, I think he lost like 95% of his money. He's still a billionaire. He's going to be fine. He's got money, but it's definitely fallen from its peak, as you guys can see that. Moreover, this is interesting. So yes, we talked about Evergrande quite a bit in the channel, but there's a bunch of money flying around the world. And I want to give you an example one. So this one's called Oceanwide. We haven't talked about this before in the channel. This article is dated September 25th, so recently. They're facing problems in the Bermuda. They got a lawsuit against them for $175 million or something like that. It says lender filed a lawsuit involving $175 million loan, right? Give me my money. And you're like, okay, Chris, well, I don't care about Bermuda. Well, I'll tell you this. What about this one? This is China Oceanwide. They had a $1.2 billion project in Los Angeles, right? This was dated last year. This kind of stuff. Imagine that you're a construction worker in LA and you're involved with this project in some way. And when you're talking about like $1 billion, it's not just construction workers, there's all kind of, vendors and sourcing and all kinds of things that are involved with this, because it's like, hey, look at all this money flowing. We're building buildings. And then you got a bunch of, buildings that no one can pay for. Like, for example, evidently, we're talking about Oceanwide now. It's not even Evergrande. It's just connected. I'm just saying they're all, the real estate developers from China. They're making $3.5 billion investments, right? And so it involved New York. You're also talking about LA. And then, evidently, people are like, hey, where's my money? And then they start suing for $220 million. So I point this stuff out because like the amount of money that we're talking about is like massive. And moreover, it does affect your life because, again, I make it more simple terms of like, hey, if you work for Apple or you invest in Apple, these kind of things, we need people to buy Apple phones, or Apple doesn't make any money. And if Chinese people aren't buying phones, right, companies are hard to make money. Talking about Apple here. For example, just laying out more clearly, right, here is like, hey, it looks like there was clearly Chinese real estate money coming into the USA, and you can see it with these kind of articles here, but, the money stops flowing because it takes time to build this stuff. And you stop making payments, and then people start to get angry, and everyone started suing each other because, Bob didn't pay Jill, and Jill didn't pay Jan, and Jan is, mom is like sick with cancer, and Jan's like, yo, Shelly, where's my money? And Shelly's like, well, I don't know. Stan was supposed to give it to me, right? That kind of stuff, right? Our whole system worldwide has been based on borrowed money, and we all borrow money from each other, and we owe each other money, and we all make promises. But, I think this chart is really telling in terms of the Chinese developer stocks that have gone down, considerably in the last 6 years. So this isn't like just a one-time thing. Moreover, we're talking about money and like the money isn't there. The government actually in the USA might shut down. So before last week, I was like, yeah, they usually work out something by midnight. So usually they do, right? I'm just telling you, usually they work out something by midnight. I think they have till Saturday is what it is. So a couple more days. Articles seem to be pretty bearish that they're going to make a deal. We'll see. Your guess is as good as mine, but if you go by just the headlines, it doesn't look good, right? You can see your shutdown odds grow as House GOP leaders reject Senate spending bill. Standoff in Congress brings government to brink of shutdown, right? You got a couple more days. And then this was my favorite headline, though. Republicans pushing for government shutdown, quote, stuck on stupid, says Party Moderate. I just thought that was a funny one. And here's something I want to point to you out as well. And I want to make this really clear in terms of just numbers, okay? So if you turn to conservative media outlets, they're going to complain about, immigration and border security and everyone, et cetera, is ruining USA. But I want to talk about just in terms of numbers. Now, Biden said, hey, if you want to fight, for border security, these kind of things, give me $4 billion to do so, okay? $4 billion. And also too, Biden's like, hey, if you want to like win this war in Ukraine, give me $24 billion. Now, the reason why I just point out numbers is because if you just watch Fox News all day, every day, they'll say, border security, build that wall, give more border agents, these kind of things. But I just want to talk in terms of numbers. Like, ask yourself, if you're on that side of the fence, right? I'm talking about fences. But if you're like a Fox News watcher, these kind of things, like you're really, really angry, about immigrants and these kind of things. And you want to get that $4 billion to pay for that thing. But, why are you not angry about the $24 billion that comes to Ukraine? So this is the kind of stuff to where like, the news sources that you watch will get you more angry about stuff than others. And I just try my best to just give you numbers. Like you can just see the numbers for yourself. My personal opinion is like, if the average American is struggling and they're like, hey, why are we sending money to another country? I can see the money right there, but it depends what source you watch, right? And if you only watch one source, then you only concentrate on this $4 billion thing, and you completely ignore the $24 billion thing. So also, to be fair, this is also real. It is a complicated system when you talk about something like the Ukraine thing, because, like, for example, I've said several times on this channel, if you want like companies that are never going to, lose money, it's going to be your defense contractors like your Lockheed Martin and that kind of stuff. Because there's always money for that. And USA has ran this kind of, industrial military complex for years. It's how USA's make money. Moreover, people get jobs in this industry. So, like, for example, you'll hear these people say, I hate the Democrats and I hate Biden and stuff like that, like the Palantir, pumpers. And the thing is like, I hope you understand that, and it's not just Biden, actually. You could argue both parties will fight for military funding, because this kind of money, $24 billion to Ukraine, it funnels into the American economy, right? It's part of the war machine. So companies like your meme stock Palantir, they get money from the defense, from the Army and from Air Force, these kind of things. I know you know this, but you don't really like put the pieces together to where like the money not being there, say, in the government shutting down, means that then like your hero Elon Musk and SpaceX, maybe they don't get paid. And many people out there watching this, maybe you may be a government contractor where you get money. I can just tell you, I know a lot of people get government contracts. Government contracts tend to be pretty good. They give you money. That's what the government does. And you're talking about like, $1 billion of people that may or may not get paid. Moreover, I was looking into the shutdown stuff. I don't have an article here, but I was just reading about it. One thing that kind of irritated me is that, when the negotiations are happening and then they have a shutdown, the politicians still get paid, but their staff gets furloughed. So they can either come to work with no pay or just, stay home, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people that are involved, be it your janitors, your cooks, and just regular people that do all the services and stuff like that. I think your postal workers will still work. I think you're still going to get Social Security and any kind of payments from the government. You can't apply for new things. Things will slow down, and then travel will be affected. It was interesting. I had forgotten about it, but I remember now when I was reading this stuff. If you guys remember the last shutdown, TSA workers, right? These are the government security people at the airports. They weren't paid for like a couple of weeks, and then eventually they just like quit. And I remember these news stories because it seems so ludicrous that they were considered essential workers and they had to like go to work without pay. If you guys remember these stories, if you're old enough to remember, I think that was like, I want to say 2018. But I'm just saying, like, I hope they get a deal. And I make jokes about this kind of stuff, but I do really understand that there are some people who are severely affected if the government shuts down. So do keep an eye on this kind of stuff. Now, in terms of the market, you read this kind of headlines, 10-year Treasury yield reaches level not seen in more than 15 years. I lived through the 08-09 stuff. I lived through the dot-com bubble stuff. I'm pushing 50, so I've seen it all. So talking about the 10-year Treasury. Now, in 1981, you're looking at like double-digit kind of stuff. So we're at like 4.6. So, historically, we're actually still fairly low. This thing could go up, and why does that matter is because, well, if you can get theoretically guaranteed return from the Treasury, because there's always worries that the USA will credit default. Who knows if that's gonna happen. I think that's kind of a low chance because they can always just print more money and give you your money, of course. But when you have the option of like, hey, I can take theoretically risk-free stuff, or I can put my money in Tesla and stuff like that. This is sort of why it makes it difficult for stocks to just keep going up from here. Moreover, you just look at your savings account. You can get like 4 or 5% for these kind of things. This is your 2-year and 10-year, like the 2 years above 5%, 3-month 5.48, this kind of stuff. I was looking at the dollar as well. I talk about this all the time on the channel. We live in Korea, so to me, the dollar exchange is like the biggest trade out there, and it's 13.58, which is really good. I remember when I first when I first went to Korea after the financial crisis, the dollar was really strong. It was like 1,500 kind of thing. So, normal dollar to won is around like 1,000, 1,100, like in that range. So the dollar is like really, really strong abroad. And it's interesting because like the crypto bulls will say, recession happens and money printing or whatever. You'll want to run away to Bitcoin because you think it's better than the dollar. I'm not seeing it. I'd rather have dollars over Bitcoin. One thing I will say, which is really interesting, and you won't hear me say this very often, My wife recently was working. She does international work, and she was doing some advising. This is a true story. There was these people. I want to say it's St. Kitts, so it's one of the islands near Cuba. Kind of in that region of the world. Bermuda, that area. And they had come to Korea, and evidently, for whatever reason, the government, the St. Kitts government, didn't give them any cash or credit cards. It's kind of weird. And like these kind of people have difficulty getting money in and out of their country. And I was thinking like, that might actually be a situation for those kind of people, or maybe like in Nicaragua, because I think they were the ones who invested in Bitcoin, or is it no, not Nicaragua? Sorry, it's El Salvador. I think that's the one. But like, there's certain countries out there that like crypto does make sense in a way. I'm not saying you should adopt it, but I just wanted to mention that yes, there are some people who and I think some of the countries in Africa as well, who like where crypto is more viable than your local currency. However, I would still take dollars, and that's essentially what my wife assisted them with. It's a long story, but I just wanted to mention that. It was just kind of a funny one. Talking about the meme stocks too. I saw the movie Dumb Money. I can do, or I did a review on it. You should watch it. The review that is, you can see my thoughts on this thing. But it's funny because when you look at the crypto market. I personally don't think we're going back there. I mean, look at this. The highs were a couple of years ago already. Crypto has spiked a couple of times. And the question is just like, the money's flowing out of the system, not into the system. Talking about the China developer thing, like, where do you think the money's going to come from? Right? I hope you guys see where this is going. like it should be very obvious, but it's funny when you go to like pumper channels, they're like, oh yeah, it's cheap to buy Bitcoin and you're going to be rich and stuff like that. It's just like, where's the money going to come from? More with something like a Tesla. I mean, it's funny. You can look at this all year. There's like this sort of line. It just had a hard time getting over. And the question is like, how far is this thing going to go down? So, I think, and you can look at the market or any, chart you look at, but if it breaks, like say this level, like with like around the 210 or whatever, then you look at this and you look at this, right? It's not that hard to read that stuff. But my opinion is like with a PE ratio of 68, and the slowing economy, it's going to be tough. Now, these kind of things, you basically look at this is the price of stock to how much the company earns. And you want to be looking at these numbers saying, okay, if it's a 68, then does that do I expect Tesla's earnings to be 70% growth next year? I would say probably not. With what money are people going to buy your said cars, right? And how long could this thing last? Slow down is anyone's guess. I mean, it's hard to really predict. The thing is that's going on right now is we have the slowdown in China. We also have the Fed keeping rates high. And moreover, you got all these worker strikes, right? So then the company's got to figure out, okay, how are we going to pay for the workers? So the UAW, the last time I checked, I think they're looking at expanding their strike yet again. It's interesting though, too, if you, look at the news, we just talked about this in a previous video. Amazon, that stock's really, I think it might be down like 10% in the last month or so. So something of that nature. We went from, was at 140 to like 120. They're under investigation for possible monopoly. So we'll see what happens with that. And, moreover, when things get tough, I've mentioned this several times. I just think we're going to see an increase in crime. Like these are the crazy headlines you get from the USA. This is, just September 28th. Philadelphia looting hits Apple, Lululemon retail theft wave. So I went to school in Philadelphia at University of Pennsylvania. So this is Center City. So those of you in Philly, you'll know this. Exactly where these places are, and you can find videos. Exactly who's doing it. You'll see, and there's like basically a flash mob of people just running in the store and then stealing stuff and running out. And they did that to do this crazy thing of like close all the liquor stores in Philly because I guess they're all getting looted. Like, think how ludicrous this is. It's just unlivable. There's no other way to put it. The police evidently arrested more than 50, I guess, but I'm sure there's a lot more people involved with this stuff. And then you get the issue like, okay, so if we start arresting all these people, where do we put them? Who's going to pay for it? that kind of stuff, right? It's the same problem with the homeless thing. Okay, so if the homeless people are going to be on the street, like if we kick them out, like where are they going to go? How are we going to move them? Where are we going to put them in hotels? This kind of shit. It's crazy. So anyway, the other one, which is kind of funny, and I do not work for Costco. Repeat, I do not work for Costco. I do not advocate gold buying. But Costco is selling gold. It's like, what kind of headlines are we reading these days? So you can read it here. Costco says its 1 ounce gold bars are real and have been selling out in hours. So evidently, I guess that's been the thing that, people are like, oh my God, they really want to buy, $2,000 1 ounce bars of gold. I'm still into the dollar. I'm not into this commodity stuff. The main thing is that if you're, getting a decent return in your savings account and you're just hoping gold goes up in value, so be it. Some people are into this stuff. I will warn you though, make it really clear. Most of the channels that pump you gold, they pump you gold because they're being paid by someone like a Costco, or they're being paid by whatever gold producer, and then they get like a commission for how much gold you buy. So they have their own stake at heart. I'm just showing you this. I don't work for Costco by any stretch. I'm not advocating this whatsoever. I just thought this was really funny that Costco sells gold, and that's the world we live in. We have to worry about whether or not I can buy liquor because all the stores are closed, but I can buy gold. So anyway, I do appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully this is useful and helpful information for you. And I'll catch you in the next video.